What's up, ladies, gents, and everyone in between? This is Shoe Booty Sports. I'm your host, Grandpa, on this screen. My fellow bald brother on the other, and co-host Bradley Brown is on the other. Say what's up, Brad.
How's it going? Bald Brothers Unite.
Um, I've had better days, but it could be worse, I guess. But yeah, your bald head is putting mine to shame. That is a very clean look. Mine is several days old at this point, more than several, I think. But either way to show me up. It's okay. Moving on. Before we get started, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsor. Shoe Booty Sports is presented by Rhino Races. Rhino Races is a virtual race series that offers 5 different races: a 5K, 10K, half marathon, a marathon, and the one of a kind Rhino Ultra. You can sign up for one or all 5 of their races at rhinoraces.com. Run your race at your convenience. Track it with your fitness app of choice. Screenshot your results as proof of completion. Submit that screenshot to rhinoraces.com under the submit results section. Once your results are verified by Rhino Races staff, your reward will be shipped to you by mail. Also, check out their gear section while you're there for t shirts, wristbands, decals, and more. That's rhinoraces.com. Rhino Races is the premier virtual running series. You can find us, Shoe Booty Sports, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on X at Shoe Booty Sports. What were you looking at over there? Like you were side eyeing something and
Oh,
straight.
my phone went off. So,
Okay. All right. I was thinking maybe there was a score update of some kind, but we got some things to talk about in the sports world. What do we want to start with, Brad? It's our show. I'll let you call it.
might as well wrap up the Final Four, both men's and women's.
All right. Well, let's start with the men's Final Four, the Saturday games. It's kind of was the way I thought it would. One game at least.
Yeah, one game.
Yeah, Florida, Florida and Auburn. Heck of a game. Looked like Auburn was the better team early. I went and got barbecue. I came back and Florida had tied it up, and then took the lead late and maintained the lead, and just it was Florida, the SEC champions, showed why they're the champions. It was cool to see that. I'm glad that Florida and Auburn got to play each other in the tournament, just for really, just in any debate of who the better team was, it's Florida. And we got an exclamation point on that Monday night, but we'll get to that in a second, or you will, and I'll get to that. I'll explain further later. But yeah, Florida getting the job done. Second game, which I watched the entire thing, well, for the most part, Duke and Houston. I had Florida and Duke in the final. I had Florida beating Duke. That was what I picked in the our bracket for our fantasy football league. It looked like Duke was the better team the whole way, and then the very end happened. They couldn't break they couldn't break the press, and Houston took advantage and did everything they could right down the stretch, and somehow pulled out a win. Blown
Somehow,
away.
yeah. What?
That was a
Four,
masterclass coaching job by Kelvin Sampson, from working the officials by checking the replay, 5 seconds, etc. Which I didn't even know you could check whether or not it was 5 seconds.
I didn't think he could either. But
But looking like a Hall of Fame coach there on the bench of the Houston bench. So masterclass coaching job by Kelvin Sampson. Houston came back and somehow won it. Even though it would have screwed my bracket up, and it did, having picked
he
Duke.
was already screwed.
Yeah, that's true. But I found myself pulling for Houston. I went into it not caring who won at the end of the game, which tends to happen. I wanted to see it. I wanted to see Houston make the comeback, and they did. So, your thoughts on that one, and I guess Florida too.
Well, I mean, what, 4 points in the last, what, 10 minutes and 10 and a half minutes of the game for Duke? And that what the stat was?
Uh,
Um,
I'm surprised it was four.
yeah.
Sounds about right though.
Um, yeah, if any team was going to shut down Duke, it was definitely going to be Houston. They've given people fits the entire tournament. Pretty much shut down Tennessee. Uh,
Pretty
Tennessee had no
much.
shot in their
It's an
matchup.
understatement. Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, if any team could do it, yeah, it's definitely going to be Houston. Very shocked that they actually did pull it off. Yeah, I don't think anyone's seen that one coming. We said last week where Houston was definitely the least favorite team out of the four.
It,
They
but
proved
but
us
it
wrong.
felt weird to say that too, though, because of how good
Yes,
Houston
it
is.
did. I mean, they're all number one seeds. It's weird saying that one of them was not favored. Um, but yeah, then the Florida Auburn game, yeah, it kind of went as we all thought it would. Yeah, I
Did
figured
it
since Bruce, huh?
as we all thought it would? Did it? I think Auburn fans have something to say about that. Or
Yeah,
you?
Barry had something to say about it, but I mean, Broom, I mean, he really wasn't a factor in that game. They stopped feeding him down low, and then at the end of the game, it was just packing him because heck, he sucks at free throws. So, um, yeah, Barry's got a more elaborate breakdown of that game, but yeah, he was disappointed to say the least.
Barry being Bradley's dad, for those of you that are new to the show, who is a
Yes.
big time Auburn fan.
Yeah.
Auburn super fan. Is it fair to say super fan? Is he that level, or is just the Auburn fan?
Nah, I'm just Auburn fan.
Yeah,
Just
super fan. It's an obsessive thing, and he's
God.
not that. He's definitely not that, but definitely an Auburn fan. I'll put it that way. So I'll retract my super fan comment.
He'll let you
Just
know about it though.
yes. Um. So yeah, I figured Florida. I went into Monday saying I think Florida is going to win between Florida and Houston, and but I also said I wouldn't be surprised if Houston won, considering what we've seen from them all tournament. Um, and here's what happened. Okay, I had a massive day Monday, just a lot going on, super busy, a very good productive day, but very busy. I had my first running clinic uh, Monday night that I was coaching, and I had all this other stuff going on beforehand. I had all this other stuff going on that I had to do after. And by the time I came back and got everything nearly finished and almost knocked out, I had a notification on my phone go off and say, Florida makes comeback to beat Houston in the
Oh
national
no.
championship. I completely forgot about the national championship game. Completely forgot about it. That's how busy of a day I had Monday, yesterday. It was so busy, I completely forgot about the national championship game. Now, I didn't care. I didn't have a dog in the fight, so I didn't care who won. So, I mean, I'll give if it was Arkansas playing, I would have remembered. But
Yeah.
that's how big of a day it was for me and how much I had going on. Didn't see a lick of the game, not even a little bit.
The AMC highlights.
Not really.
Because dude,
I haven't really had my TV on since then.
after the first 10 minutes, I was like, Houston's just gonna walk away with this game. Like they're just shutting them down. Every time every time they pull way ahead, Florida would make, a one or two threes, pull within striking range, and then Houston would just broaden that out again. Uh, but yeah, 100% believed Houston was going to win that game in the first half. And then the second half came. Uh, there was a lot of fouls started being called in the second half, and yeah, it changed the outcome of the game. So
I heard officiating was an issue, just from the little bit I've looked into it. I mean, I can't say whether or not it was. Sounds like you think it played a big part.
well, they called two different halves, man. They didn't call the second half the same way, it seemed like. They were, I don't know, they were blowing whistles for non-existent fouls, not blowing whistles for obvious fouls. Uh, Maybe some of those whistles for non-fouls were makeup whistles for the non-called fouls. I don't know. But there's definitely more whistles being blown in the second half versus the first half. It didn't feel like the same uh officials. It didn't feel like the same crew was out there.
I'll say this: what annoys a coach more than anything, I'll put it this way: one of the better quotes I heard as a reporter in my reporting days was from legendary Sylvan Hills championship coach Denny Tipton, baseball coach. Uh, as the ump was calling balls, strikes, etc. In Tipton's eyes, he wasn't being consistent. And then I heard Tipton just say, just being a manager, trying to work in the ump a little bit, but also some truth in his eyes, at least behind it. He said, I don't care if you call it, just give me something consistent. So consistency or lack thereof is what will drive, especially in officiating, and by that I mean officiating, is the one thing that will drive a coach bonkers, nuts. Is just a lack of consistency when it comes to officiating, calling fouls, letting them play. You can get an idea early on in a game whether or not an official is going to call certain fouls or not, or they're going to let you be a little more physical, and then you can adjust. Like as a players, coaches, you can adjust. You can adjust to how the game's being officiated. If it's completely flipped like that, there's no way to know what's going to happen. So if you're going to call the fouls in the second half, call them in the first half too, so I can know what to expect in the second half. Just give me something consistent. And we didn't have that apparently in the national championship game.
Did not.
All right. So where did you end up as far as
In the brackets, I ended up, I think, tied for, or no, just solo fourth place. I was tied for first, I think, going into the final four. And then the Houston game screwed me. The unbeaten Tennessee screwed me over. So I was out of it at that point. Led it the whole time, 90% of the way there. Just fumbled it at the end. And Luke comes out
finish?
of nowhere. Luke runs in the middle of the pack the whole time. And yeah, I think he's the only one who called Houston to the finals. So that was his major
Good call.
factor. So yeah, good call on him.
Unlikely, but good call nonetheless. I ended up eighth, so I don't know what that means.
It means you're not last pick. So
Well, there you go.
it only
Uh,
determines first and last pick.
there you go. Well, I'm not last, so I'll take it. I don't know that I want first pick anyway. I had that last year, didn't work out very well for me, so I'm kind of okay with that. Is there even a clear cut number one? I mean, it'd be Saquon probably, right?
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah, that'd be who I picked. Uh,
I mean,
so maybe I
scored a
do.
boatload of points last season.
Maybe I
So,
do want the number one pick now that I think about it.
but this
No,
is a keeper league, so somebody's already got it. So
oh, well, never mind then. I don't care then. All right, so that happened on the men's side. Let's talk about the women's side now. I actually did see. I saw some of the women's Final Four Friday night. Not a lot of it, but I saw some of it enough to know who was going to be playing in the national championship game. I spent more time watching UConn than I did South Carolina, just because I figured South Carolina would coast into the national championship game. In the national championship game itself, I only watched I watched a little bit of the beginning because I was working on my other podcast, and by the time I got finished with everything, I went into the living room to turn the game on, and UConn was up 30. They're up 30 points. I mean, beat the absolute brakes off of South Carolina. And historically, I've always rooted against the UConn women just because they were so dominant that it was just not fun anymore.
yeah,
It'd be like playing a video game. It'd be like playing Madden and you're playing it on super easy or whatever the easiest option is.
they were beating teams by like 70 points back then.
Yes, exactly. So it's not interesting. It's only interesting if somebody can challenge that juggernaut. And so I was rooting for the teams that would do that every 3 years, it felt like. And so I just got to where I just wasn't pulling for UConn basketball because there was no parity. in the sport, and the people that were saying it was bad for the game were right because people don't want to see that. That's not interesting. If you're a UConn fan, you want to see it. If you're just a casual fan like myself, or don't have a dog in the fight like me, then I'm not interested in this. I'm going to change it to something else with all the TV options I have. So I have found myself liking UConn a lot more in the last few years because they hadn't won. I didn't realize this. They hadn't won a national championship in 9 years. It's been 9 years since they had last won a national championship.
Woohoo.
Yeah, but feels like an eternity if you're a UConn women's basketball fan. It's got to feel like an eternity compared to what you're used to. But
Oh yeah, especially when he won what 5 in a row, 4 in a row.
at least they Gino had 11. He had 11 going into Sunday, 11 national championships, and they got 12 in dominant fashion Sunday. And I love seeing it. And I don't have anything against South Carolina, but they've been the dominant team, the defending champions. They've been the dominant team over the last several years at this point. So I was pulling for the underdog in this one. And just to see UConn beat them in that fashion, and to see UConn actually go through some adversity and see that, okay, you know what, Gino can coach. It's not just he's got the most 5 stars or the top tier 5 stars. The guy can actually coach. UConn women's basketball, from a fundamental perspective, was really fun to watch. All the ball movement, the right plays, defending, great shot selection. Uh, it was fun to watch. I enjoyed watching them play, and I found myself pulling for them in the tournament here at the end. And I mean, they played their absolute. I don't know how I'd say they played their absolute best basketball at the end of the season, which they did. But it's not like they had a rough stretch this season. It wasn't like last year. They were what 36-3, something like that. Uh, and I don't know how they were a 2 seed. They only had 3 losses. South Carolina only had 3 losses before Sunday. They were the number one overall seed. I don't remember who was the 1 seed on that side of the bracket, but I don't see how the heck UConn was not a 1 seed.
USC. Think.
Still, I don't see how UConn was left off of the top 4. I get why Texas would be a 1. I get why South Carolina USC would be a 1. I'd find a way to, and I guess UCLA was the other, right? Yeah, because that's who UConn beat and beat handily in the Final Four. I would have flipped those though. I would have flipped them. I'd been like, nah, that UConn's a 1 seed. This UConn team was a 1 seed. How much of it did you see? Because I'm just rambling on about it.
I did not see any of it. Every time I thought about it was like the following day. I was always a day off. So
So basically, you did what I did with the men's game, which I've never done before, but found a way to do that yesterday, which is kind of impressive.
yeah,
That's how busy I was.
took you 40 years, but you got it.
Yeah, I did. All right. Well, anyway, so college basketball season, that's a wrap. Our Arkansas men finished the season ranked 20th in the AP poll, a Sweet 16 appearance. If we're going to grade their season and Calipari's first year as a Razorback head coach, considering how things started, and by that I mean the day he was hired, the team he inherited, which there wasn't one, to how they started, to how they finished, even in the disappointing way that they finished. What would you grade? Let's give a letter grade. What would you grade Cal's? Well, just not Cal's job, just the Razorbacks and their season that they had, the first under John Calipari.
It was a little bumpy, but I mean, we made it to the Sweet 16. I mean, you got to give it an A minus, 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 like an 89.6, rounded up to a 98. Like, so
An 0-5 start, you're giving an A.
it's all about how you end up, man. I don't give a shit how you start. It's all about how you finish.
Well, it didn't end well either. I mean, they should have won that game.
Sweet 16.
Yeah, I'm not giving them an A. I know that he had to completely rebuild a team, and it's
Yeah.
completely impressive what they did. I'm not saying it isn't.
Now, when you weight it with my grade earlier in the season, it comes out to like a B, B plus. So,
I don't remember what that was. We're throwing that one out. Just we're grading on what we see now. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go a solid. I want to say B minus, but I'm gonna say B just because of what he inherited, which was nothing. He had to put he had to put a team together last minute, and after an 0-5 start, found a way to get this team to come together and play their best ball at the right time. Yeah, you lost in disappointing fashion in the Sweet 16, a game that you should have won.
should have won.
But how many games could we say that about in this tournament? And I'm not excusing it, but the Arkansas wasn't the only ones. Texas Tech turned around and did the exact same thing against Florida in the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
Duke had
Oh,
just as big
yeah.
of a choke job in
Yeah.
the
That
final
was
four.
even bigger because they were expected to win. Nobody's really expecting the Hogs to win.
That's true. Arkansas was a 10 seed going up against a
Yeah.
3. But you've got to consider that. Although that Arkansas team was not a 10 seed.
No,
Uh,
it wasn't.
had they played like that all year, they'd probably be a 3 seed. But playing in that league, the SEC, that's yeah, it's just get in and you'll be fine after going through that gauntlet. But I'll say a solid B. I want to say B minus, but I'm going to say solid B. Uh, and in year one, what will probably be Cal's worst team, it's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
Lot to be excited about. Uh, Speaking of Razorback players, Adu Thero declared for the NBA draft today. Uh, Good for him. Good luck at the
Yeah.
next level. Same with Boogie Flan. I don't know if we touched up on that last week, but good luck to those guys in their hopes of playing in the NBA. I'm sure they'll either get drafted, signed one way or another. I imagine those two will get drafted, but how high we'll find out. Okay, so basketball touched up on college basketball, closed the season there. Moving on to we have the NFL draft coming up in the coming weeks. Do you think Aaron Rodgers will make a decision for the Steelers within the next, or he'll do it before the draft, right?
He will do it before the draft, or they'll just stop talking to him. Because I hear
As
the
they
owner's
should.
getting pretty fed up with all this stuff. So
I would too.
yeah,
I get it.
I would have gotten fed up with it weeks ago, but
Yeah. I still say you wait it out, but if I don't have an answer by a couple of days before the draft, I'm moving on. I'm
yeah, because
looking.
all he's doing is holding out for Minnesota.
Well, that's not going to happen. I mean, for everything I've understood, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Are you hearing this from something? Because I've not heard anything about
As what I read, I hadn't read anything on it in a couple of days. So
that. Okay. Well, it's my understanding it's basically Steelers or nothing at this point, which
yeah,
is a pretty
I,
good option if you're Aaron Rodgers and if you're the Steelers. So if it's going to work, then anywhere this is just about as good of a spot that it's going to work. I like the Minnesota fit better, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. So you got to kind of take what you can get at this point. If it's, well, you don't have to, but this is about as good of a situation as you're going to get to be in this position if you want to play. But that's the thing. Does he want to play? And I get it. If you're going to be in, you got to be all in. But we need an answer. If you're Pittsburgh, If I'm Pittsburgh, I need an answer as soon as possible.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Let's go to baseball now. Let's talk some baseball. We haven't done that in a long time. Uh, Major League Baseball officially underway. Opening day was last month at this point, and college baseball, of course, well underway. Have you looked at the college baseball rankings lately? There is a
Yes,
new
yes, I have.
there's a new number one at the top of the standings, and that is our Arkansas Razorbacks. So woo pig on that. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
DDH and Company taking the top spot in the college baseball rankings. Uh,
Thanks to
look,
thanks to Tennessee fumbling the bag against A&M over the weekend.
yeah, A&M team that hasn't had the best. It's a tough team, but hasn't had the best year record wise. Of course, playing in the SEC that'll do that. But Arkansas 30-3 on the season overall record, 11-1 in SEC play.
Guess who they're playing tonight?
Arkansas State, right?
Arkansas State. Yeah.
Aren't they playing now?
That game's actually on SEC Network. It's on now.
Say I have
I
not
just
looked.
remembered right now.
I did too. I remembered when you said that. I even got a text about it saying that they were playing tonight. At this point, I've had other stuff going on today, as you know about, so it hasn't been that important to me. But I'm trying to look up the score right now. Okay. We actually have. Do you know anything about the game?
Uh,
All right. It is 6-3 Arkansas in the bottom of the sixth.
Sweet.
Yeah. So as soon as we get off here, I'm going to go turn that game on because we can watch the game.
Yep.
Um, you know, Arkansas State came to play. You know, they came to play.
Oh yeah, dude.
And
As
baseball's
they
a
should.
baseball's a weird sport like that. The top team can lose a game every so often to a team that they'll beat 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah. David's beat Goliaths all the time
Yes,
in baseball.
all the time. So who knows? I mean, if they're playing a best of seven, I mean, Arkansas is probably going to beat them in five, but if that. But one game, never know. So this is intriguing. But shout out to the Arkansas Razorbacks for the number one ranking. It doesn't mean anything at the end of the year. Whether it only means something if you win the College World Series. But for now, this is something to celebrate for Hog fans, I'd say.
Yeah.
But the rankings, the top 25 rankings are very SEC dominant, as you would expect. Pulling it up now. I had it pulled up earlier. I know you've got Arkansas number one, the Texas Longhorns number two,
Really?
LSU three. Four of the top five are SEC teams. So
Dang. Tennessee dropped that far back.
apparently, but Arkansas one, Texas two, LSU three, Clemson four, Tennessee five. Even with a 28-4 record, what are they? 8-3 in league play, SEC play.
Yeah.
Ole Miss six, Georgia seven, Oregon State eight, Florida State nine, UCLA 10, and then the next two, Auburn and Alabama in that order, 11 and 12. And rounding out the top 25, you got for SEC teams, you got Vanderbilt at 17, you got Oklahoma 19. Um, yeah, and that's it. But so, nothing abnormal from what we have seen and know about SEC baseball. Um, SEC softball is doing similar things, especially with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma, who have been the dominant
Were they going for
softball
their
teams.
fifth
Who
straight? Oklahoma. They're going for the fifth straight national title in softball.
they're not going to do that this year. They're not near the dominant team that they have been. Texas is the number one team right now. Oklahoma wasn't as good last year, and they still found a way to win it. Uh, I don't think they're going to be able to do that this year. I don't think that they they were complete dominance, Oklahoma softball that is, for 3 straight years, and then they had a bit of a drop off last year, and Texas was the top team, uh, seed wise and ranking wise, and Oklahoma still beat them. I wasn't surprised by that, but Oklahoma is dropped. The program's dropped down even a little bit more this year. I think this is the year that they're not going to do it. We'll see what happens. I'd probably say Texas is the favorite, but who knows? I did watch a really good game between Arkansas and Florida. Saturday, was it Saturday? I watched it.
They
Friday or
won.
Saturday. Well, I didn't see Arkansas beat them. I think Friday night, and they lost to them in extra innings Saturday. That's the one that I saw. Arkansas was really leading most of the game. Florida hit a 3-run bomb, and Arkansas had the better game. You look at the hit numbers. Arkansas had double-digit hits. Florida only had like 5 or 6, had 2 errors. Arkansas probably should have won the game, but Florida's hits were timely, especially in extra innings. Arkansas took a 1-run lead in the top of the 8th, I think, and Florida responds with a 2-run bomb to walk it off and win it. And that was when I turned the TV off and went and got barbecue and came back and watched the rest of the Final Four between Florida and Auburn. Yeah, because Florida, the commentators were talking about it. Like, man, this is because there was this call that was they messed up the officials messed up the umpires, and there was this massively long delay where they had to check the rule book, and the commentators just kept talking about, yeah, they actually moved this game up so that the fans could get out of here in time to go watch the other Florida game, but here we are dealing with this extra innings and a long delay to look at the rule book. But Florida ends up winning it. Very entertaining game nonetheless. Softball is fast pitch softball is one of those sports that I'm just mesmerized by, mainly the pitching, because I just
Like say
don't
what
understand how they do that.
what what team was it? Was it Florida or was it Tennessee last week where the girl threw the fastest pitch recorded against the Hogs?
Probably Tennessee. I would imagine it's Tennessee, just
Yeah.
based on the math schedule that is. But yeah, probably Tennessee. I just don't. I don't understand how they are able to throw one that hard, two that accurate in that
And
motion.
just keep throwing. Yeah.
Well, see here,
They can
that
pitch
was
back to
explained to
back
me.
games, man.
That was explained to me when I was a reporter. I said, because the high school teams would go play in a tournament when I was a reporter, and they just use the same pitcher for 3 games that day. Wouldn't change pitchers, had the same person out there pitching. Like, how do they do this? And the coach was explaining to me, like, this motion is a lot easier on your arm. It's a lot easier on your joints. It's a lot more natural. It's a much more natural motion to throw it that way as opposed to rearing back and coming this way. Like, you don't hear about softball players having Tommy John surgery, So it's just it's a more natural motion
Do they
for
call it a Susie John surgery?
boom. Okay, you couldn't wait to spit that out, could you? All right. Um, all right. Well, Bradley with the joke of the day there. But yeah, it's supposedly a more natural motion, but still, I don't know how you do it. It's just seems I don't get it. I don't. Of course, growing up playing baseball my whole life, I'm not going to, but still, just one of those
No.
things I'm kind of fascinated to watch is how they do it and do it at that with that kind of velocity behind it. Pretty impressive stuff to me. So anyway, all right, what are we missing, Brad? Okay. Oh, before I forget, we have a new all-time goal scorer in the NHL. His name is Alexander Ovechkin. Breaks Wayne Gretzky's all-time record of 894 with 895 goals from Alex Ovechkin. I believe he did it in the exact same number of games that it took Gretzky to get 894. They were making a big deal out of that, and I'm sure that was important to him to break the record in the same amount of games. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize they played the same amount of games for Ovi to break the record. They showed a cool before and a photo of Ovechkin when he got drafted. He's taking a photo with a younger Wayne Gretzky, and the night that he broke the record, of course, Gretzky was there. They take a picture together. At that point, they stopped the game, did a ceremony, and all that, and they took a picture there. It was cool to see just the contrast between young Ovi, wow, rookie Ovi, and then
And
breaking Ovi and Gretzky.
and if you don't know already, Ovi hit a hole in one his very first time trying golf.
That doesn't surprise me.
It is sickening. Speaking of golf, there is this small tournament going down in Georgia this weekend. You may have heard of, called the Masters. Um, that's going to be pretty big this weekend. I'm going to watch as much of it as I can. Um, Going to see if Scotty can get his third jacket, if Rory can get his first. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of pulling for Xander myself, so we shall see.
Is Xander Shoffley? Is that his last name?
Yeah, Shoffley, which it gets a little confusing looking at Shoffley and Scheffler on the scoreboard. So especially if they're right by each other. So
Didn't Rory have a just an epic collapse last year?
yes,
Okay, was that at the
but
Masters?
that was not at the Masters. No,
That was my question. Was it at the Masters? Okay.
no.
All right. Well, who's your favorite to win it? Not who you're rooting for. If you're betting money on it, who are you taking? It's got to be Scotty Scheffler,
Yeah,
right?
it's got to be Scotty.
All right. Well, there you go. Update on the Arkansas State game. Arkansas has now increased their lead from 6-3 to 7-3. Still in the bottom of the six. So Hogs still at the plate. Yeah, we're gonna go in and watch that as soon as we're done with this, or at least I assume you are. In other news, okay, the WNBA draft is Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. I imagine Paige Beckers will probably be the number one overall pick there. That would be the favorite, I would think. I don't
That'd
know
be a
who
pretty
has
good
the number.
guess.
Yeah, I don't know who has the number one pick, but I imagine she'll be the first one off the board there. The Nuggets and Grizzlies fired their head coaches. The Grizzlies one, well, they both surprised me. I don't know how well the Nuggets are doing this year, but yeah, they fired Coach Malone, and they're also not going to extend their GM. So just a couple of years removed from an NBA championship, not even 2 years, where,
No,
yeah, or has it been 2 years? I don't know. I don't remember.
almost 2 years.
Okay. Well, yeah. Malone out in Denver. So, wow. it's but the NBA is weird like that. You can win coach of the year and then turn around and get fired the next season. It can be weird like that. All right. Um anything else before we get out of here, Brad?
Not that I can think of at the moment.
Okay. Last I checked, my St. Louis Cardinals were atop the MLB Central. Of course, the Dodgers finally lost a game. They went from undefeated to now they're 9-3 and now third in the NL West at this point. Nope, the Cardinals are no longer in first place. The Chicago Cubs are at 8-5. Milwaukee right behind that 5-5. St. Louis now 4-6. So as soon as I say something positive about them, it gets negative. So I'm going to get out of here
Yeah.
on this note. We're out of time. See y'all next week. I'm Grandpal.
Brother Brown.
Deuces, y'all.
Peace.